Good morning, grade 7 students. So last week, we studied the area of parallelograms, and we are going to actually start this week's lesson with a brief review of that topic. So I have this lovely parallelogram on the board here, and if you take a close look, you should be able to tell what both the height and the base of this parallelogram are. The base is 1, 2, 3 squares. The height is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 squares. Okay, so if we use our formula to find the area of this parallelogram, area is equal to base times height. Remember, sometimes now we squish those two together. We don't want to put an X in between because it looks like that's another letter. We don't know what X stands for, so we're avoiding that. We squish them together. That means multiply. Okay. So we've got area is base and height. As discussed, the area was 3, the height was 8. So we're going to do our substitution step next. And then, of course, we find our answer, which is 24. And these aren't really centimeters. So I'm just going to say units squared. However, this week's unit is not on the area of parallelograms. It's on the area of triangles. And the formula for the area of a triangle is different from that of a parallelogram. So once again, we're going to do something a little bit drastic. I'm going to take our lovely neighborhood parallelogram here, and we're going to cut it in half from one corner to the other, okay, to the opposite diagonal. And if you want to do this with a piece of paper at home, you can, okay? It does work every time as long as you cut in a nice straight line. That's important. So here we go, okay? We are cutting this lovely parallelogram in half on the diagonal from one corner to the other, okay? So I end up with two, what do we call these shapes again? Why, yes, they are triangles. And they should be, if we've done it right, identical triangles. They fit into each other. So some of you may already have thought this through. What have I just done to the area of this parallelogram? I have cut it in half. I cut it into two pieces. So if I want to know the area of the resulting triangle, I'm going to put this up over here. How do you suppose I'd find that? Well, I'd find it by taking the same area and dividing it in half, right? I took half of the area away. I got rid of it. So we should know from doing this that this means our area is going to be 12 square units, okay? So what this means is to find the area of this triangle, okay? And this is interesting. Our base is the same. Our base is 1, 2, 3 units, okay? So our base is the same, it's 3 units. Our height is also the same. If you count the number of squares down, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's still 8 units. But there's one more thing we have to do to this, and that is we have to divide by 2, okay? So area is base times height divided by 2. There's a few different ways to write that, and I'm going to go over them all in the next section of the lesson, okay? So just hold on to that. This is the simplest way. It's probably what you're most familiar with. So then we've got our formula here. Area is base times height divided by 2. That means it's 3 times 8 divided by 2. Order of operations, start on the left, work your way to the right. Okay, area is 24 divided by 2. Area is 12 units squared, which, as we said, would be half the area of that parallelogram that we had before. I'm going to erase this because we're now talking about triangles, and having this on the board feels confusing. There it goes. Okay, when you measure the height of a triangle, just like when you measure the height of a parallelogram, you have to make sure that it is measured perpendicular to the base. So watch for something that has that little square symbol that indicates that this is a 90-degree angle. Okay, so I have another triangle here. The height is 6 centimeters. The base is 8 centimeters. So we're going to use this formula again. Okay, I'm going to write it a little differently this time. Area is base times height divided by 2. Okay, so in this case, my base is 8 centimeters. My height is 6 centimeters. And then I'm going to divide that by 2. Okay, so 8 times 6 is 48. Divided by 2 means that my area is 24. And since they say centimeters, this will be square centimeters. Centimeters squared. Woohoo! I have one more example here that we're going to do. So there's a few different ways because there's lots of different triangles, right? So this one, we measured the height and the base. We had to draw a line down that was kind of outside of the triangle, okay? For this one, there's a line drawn that's right in the middle of the triangle. But you're looking for this line that says that it's perpendicular to the base, okay? So same formula here, but again, I'm going to write it a little differently because that's fun. Okay, this time we're going to say, yeah, this is 1/2 of the base times the height. Okay, so in this case, area is 1/2 of 12 times 4. Area is 1/2 of 48. Oh, that's funny. These two triangles have the same area. Creepy. Okay, area equals 1/2 of 48. Well, how do you find half of 48? You divide it by 2. So it's 24 centimeters squared, okay? So I have written this formula in 3 different ways on the board. I've written it like this, I've written it like this, I've written it like this. They all mean the same thing, okay? They all mean that you take the base and the height and you divide it by 2. And if you have trouble remembering to divide by 2, think about the parallelogram we cut in half. That's how you get a triangle. You cut a parallelogram in half. To get the area of a triangle, you cut the area in half, okay? So these are our 3 ways to write this self-same formula. Most of you are going to find that this is the least confusing, okay? However, if you've been following where we've talked a lot about how that slash means division, this one's a little faster to write. It's a little bit easier, okay? Go ahead and do those practice sheets because as you all know, we learn math by doing it. Have yourselves a good week.